Sheriff's Department. The thing that bothered me the most was going down to Poudre Valley where Matthew was, and the thing that bothered me the most was seeing him, touching him. As a homicide detective, I'm used to dealing with bodies, but here's this boy, sitting there, fighting for all his life, just trying to make it. I wanted it so by the book,
I keep seeing that picture in my head from when I found him.
Aaron Kreifels.
It's not pleasant whatsoever. I want to, get it out, and that's the biggest part for me. It's seeing that picture in my head. Because it's unbelievable to me that I happen to be the one who found him. Because the big question with me, with my religion, is why did God want me to find him?
I know how to take care of myself, and I was irrationally terrified.
Catherine Connolly.
So what that means is not letting my 12-year-old son walk the streets, seeing a truck do a U-turn and thinking it's coming after me, having to stop the car because I'm shaking so bad. And in fact, the pickup truck did not come after me, but my reaction was to have my heart in my mouth.
Ultimately, no matter how you dice it, I did have an opportunity.
Matt Galloway.
If I had amazing hindsight, 2020, to have stopped, what occurred? And I keep thinking to myself, I should have noticed. These guys should have been talking to this guy. I should have not had my head down for those 20 seconds when I was washing dishes. Things that I could have done. What the hell was I thinking?
So you study for hours and hours and hours, and you study and study and study. You talk to the officers again, you make sure they understand, talk to witnesses again, and then you always come back to get this flash of Matthew. And I just want it so tight that there's no way these guys are going to get out of it,
One of the things that happened when I got to the fence,
Reggie Flutie.
It's just such an overwhelming amount of blood, and we try to wear protective gloves, but we had a really cheap sheriff at the time, bought shit gloves, you put them on, they keep breaking, and so finally you just run out of gloves, and you think, don't hesitate. That's what your mind tells you all the time. Don't hesitate. And so you keep moving and you try to help Matthew find an airway, and that's what you do,
The thing I wasn't telling you before is that Reggie's my daughter.
Marge Murray.
And when she first told me that she wanted to become a police officer, well, I thought there wasn't a better choice for her. She could handle whatever came her way.
Probably about a day and a half later, the hospital called and told me Matthew had HIV. They said, you've been exposed, and you've had a bad exposure. Because I'd been building a lean-to for my llamas, and my hands had a bunch of open cuts on them, so I was basically screwed. You think, oh shoot,
Would you like to talk about losing sleep?
So I called them back and I said, okay, what do I do? And they said, get up here. So I got up there and we started the ATZ drugs immediately.
They told us that there's a medication that if administered 36 hours after you've been exposed, that it may stop you from getting the disease.
That is a mean, nasty medicine. Mean. I've lost 10 pounds and a lot of my hair. Yeah.
And quite frankly, I wanted to lash out at someone. Not Matthew, please understand. Not one of us was mad at Matthew. But I maybe wanted to squeeze Mckinney's head off. And I think about Henderson, just two absolutely human beings causing so much grief for so many people. It's been terrible for us, but mostly for her and her kids.
I think it really brought home to my girls what their mom does for a living.
So it's the first thing I'm gonna tell you.
My parents, they both said the same damn thing.
You're quitting this damn job.
And it's just a parent thing, and they're terribly proud of you because you do a good job, whether you're handling a drunk or a case like this. It's just that, they don't want you getting hurt.
Like I said, there's a right way and there's a wrong way and there's Reggie's way.
So finally I said, oh, for God's sakes, lighten up, Francis.
You are so stubborn.
say I'm stubborn and I don't believe them. I just think, okay, I've heard your opinion and now here's mine. I'm 39 years old, you know? What are they gonna do, spank me?
Reggie, don't give me any ideas.
It looked pretty funny, you know? What are they gonna say?
I just hope she doesn't go before me. I don't think I can handle that.
University of Wyoming President, Philip Dubois.
Well, this is a young person who read my statement on the Denver Post story and sent an email to me directly and said,
You and the straight people of Laramie are guilty of the beating of Matthew Shepard, just like the Germans with the other way are guilty of the beatings of countless Jews, gypsies, and homosexuals. You have taught your straight children to hate their gay and lesbian brothers and sisters, and unless and until you acknowledge that Matthew Shepard's beating was not just the act of a couple of crazies, not just some random occurrence, you will have his blood on your hands.
and, well, I can't begin to tell you what that does to you. And it's like, you can't possibly know what I'm thinking. You can't possibly know what this has done to me and to my family and my community. That first week alone, vigils for Matthew Shepard were held in Laramie, Denver, Fort Collins, and Colorado Springs. Soon after, in Detroit, Chicago, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Nashville, Minneapolis, and Portland, Maine, among others. In Los Angeles, 5,000 people gathered, and in New York City, a political rally ended in civil disobedience and hundreds of arrests. The Poudre Valley Hospital website received close to 1 million views, all expressing hope for Matthew's quick recovery. Matthew Shepard medical update for 9 a.m. Sunday, October 9th.
As of 9 a.m. today, Matthew Shepard remains in critical condition. The family continues to emphasize that the media respect their privacy. The family also wants to thank the American public for their kind thoughts and concern for their son.
There are certain things when I sit in church,
Jedediah Schultz.
and the Reverend will tell you flat out that he doesn't agree with homosexuality. And I don't know, I think right now I'm going through changes, you know, I'm still learning about myself, and I don't think I know enough about certain things to make a decision that says homosexuality is right. When you've been raised your whole life that it's wrong, and right now I would say that I don't agree with it, yeah, that I don't agree with it, but maybe that's just because I couldn't do it. And speaking in religious terms, I don't think that's how God intended it to happen. But I don't hate homosexuals. I mean, I'm not going to persecute them or anything like that at all. I mean, that is not going to be getting in the way between me and the other person at all.
Well, it's preached in schools that being gay is okay and yada yada yada.
Conrad Miller.
And if my kids ask me, I sit them down and I say, this is what gay people do, this is what animals do. This is life, this is lifestyle, this is what they do. And I'd say, this is why I believe it's wrong.
There's more gay people around than you think.
Murdoch.
And it doesn't bother anybody, because most of them, the gays and the lesbians, they know damn well who to talk to. If you step out of line, then you're asking for it. Some people are saying that he made a pass at them. You just don't pick up regular people. And I'm not excusing their actions, but it made me feel better because it's partially Matthew Shepard's fault, and partially the guys who did it. You know, maybe it's 50-50.
Yes, as a lesbian, I was more concerned for my safety.
Zachy Salmon.
I think we all were, and I think it's because somewhere inside we all know it could happen to us any time. I mean, I would be afraid to walk down the street and display any sort of physical affection for my partner. You don't do that here in Laramie.
Well, there's this whole idea, you know, you leave me alone, I leave you alone.
Jonas Slonaker.
And it's even in some of the Western literature, you know, live and let live. That's such crap. I tell all my friends that. Even some of my gay friends bring it up sometimes. I'm like, that's crap, you know? Basically, what it boils down to is if I don't tell you I'm a fag, you won't beat the crap out of me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's so great about that? That's a great philosophy.
We went to the candle vigil,
Zubaida Ula.
and it was so good to be with people who felt like shit. And I kept feeling like I don't deserve to feel this bad, you know? And someone got up there and he said, blah, 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 blah. I'm saying it wrong, but basically what he was saying was, come on, guys, let's show the world that Laramie is not this kind of a town. But it is this kind of a town. If it wasn't this kind of a town, then why did it happen here? I mean,
You know what I mean? Like, that's a lie. Because it happened here. So how could it not be a kind of town where this thing happens? I mean, that's just like totally like looking at an Escher painting and getting all confused. It's just totally like circular logic. Like, how can you even say that? And we need to mourn this. And we need to be sad that we live in a town, a state, a country where shit like this happens. There are people trying to distance themselves from this crime. And we need to own this crime, I feel. Everybody needs to own it. We are like this. We are like this. We are like this.
I was at the fireside bar one afternoon and ran into two friends of Aaron Mckinney, Shannon and Jen. You guys knew Aaron well, right?
Yeah, we both did. When I found out, I thought it was awful. I don't know if Aaron was fucked up or coming down or what, but Matthew had money. Shit, he had better clothes than I did. Matthew was a rich bitch.
You shouldn't call him a rich bitch, though. That's not right.
Well, I'm not saying he's a bad person either. He was just the wrong place, wrong time, said the wrong things. And I won't lie to you. There were times I was all messed up on meth. I thought about going out and robbing. I mean, I never did, but yeah, I was there. It's easy money.
Aaron's done got that kind of thing before. They both have. You know, I remember one night they went down to Cheyenne and they came back with like $300. And I don't know if they particularly chose gay people as their targets, but anybody that looked like they had a lot of money that they could outnumber or overpower was fair game.
Do you think there was any homophobia at all that contributed to some of it?
Probably. It probably would have pissed him off that Matt was gay, but I mean, he was fine with as long as, you know, the gay people I saw him interact with, just as long as they weren't hitting on him, as long as it didn't come up.
As long as they weren't doing it in front of him.
Do you get the impression that he knew other gay people?
I'm sure he knew people that were gay. I mean, he worked at the KFC and there were a couple people that, yeah, but I don't know. Half the people I know here in Laramie are gay.
What would you guys say to him if you saw him right now?
First of all, I'd ask him if he'd do any more tweak.
If I saw him right now, I'd be like, man, why'd you fuck up like that? But then, I just want to make sure he's doing good. I'd probably hang out with him and stuff.
Smoke a bowl with him?
I bet he wants one so bad.
You guys both went to Laramie High?
Yeah, we both did. Can't you tell? We're a product of our society.
On a day that is traditionally given over to nothing more profound than collegiate exuberance and the fortunes of the University of Wyoming's football team, this community on the High Plains had a different kind of homecoming Saturday, as many searched their souls in the wake of a vicious, apparent anti-gay hate crime. University President Philip Dubois.
Well, this was homecoming weekend, and there were a lot of people in town, and there's a homecoming parade that was scheduled. And the students organized to tag onto the back of the parade, behind the banner supporting Matt, and everybody wearing the armbands that the students had created.
I live at the center of town.
Harry Woods.
And I have an apartment that overlooks two opposite streets, one that goes north and one that goes south. And that's exactly the homecoming parade route. Now, on the day of the parade, I was in a cast because of a fall. And I was very disappointed because I wanted to walk with people marching for Matthew, but I couldn't, so I had to watch from my window. And it was just, it was very, I'm 52 years old, and I'm gay. You know, I've lived here a long time, and I've seen a lot, and I was very moved when I saw the tag at the end of the parade for Matthew. You know? About 100 people marching at the end of the parade behind a banner for Matthew Shepard. And so I waited for the parade to go down to the end of the block and make a U-turn and come down the other side of the street. And 10 minutes later, sure enough, it did. And I noticed the most amazing thing as the parade is coming down the other side of the street. The number of people marching for Matthew had grown 5 times. There were at least 500 people marching for Matthew. Can you imagine? And the tag at the end of the parade kept growing. Eventually, the tag was bigger than the entire parade itself. Then, you know what? I started to cry. Tears streaming down my face, and I thought, thank God I got to see this in my lifetime. And my second thought was, thank you, Matthew.
I was right up in front where they're holding that banner for Matt, and let me tell you, I've never had goosebumps for so long in my life. It was incredible. I mean, a mass of people, of families, mothers holding these 6-year-old kids and tying these armbands around these 6-year-old kids and trying to explain to them why they should wear an armband. Just amazing. I mean, it was absolutely one of the most beautiful things that I've ever done in my life.
I really haven't been that involved per se. My husband's a highway patrolman, and that's really the only way I've known about it. Now, when I first found out, I thought, it's awful. Nobody deserves that. I don't care who you are. But another thing that did not come out that happened around the same time, that patrolman was killed. And there was nothing about the old man that killed him. He was driving down the road when he shouldn't have been driving and killed him. Now, here's one of our guys, and all we get is a little piece in the paper. And my husband worked with this man. He was brand new on the force, and here's one of our guys, and it's just a tiny piece in the paper. Now, a lot of it's my feeling that the media is portraying Matthew Shepard as a saint, making him a martyr, and I don't think he was. I don't think he was that pure. Now, I didn't know him, but there's some things you find out that it's just scary, you know? About his character, his spreading AIDS, being the kind of person he was. He was just a barfly, you know? And I think he pushed himself around. I think he flaunted it. Everyone's got problems, but why they exemplified him, I don't know. A hate crime is a hate crime. If you kill someone, you hate them. What's the difference if you're gay or a prostitute or whatever? I don't understand. I don't understand.
Company member Lee Fondakowski.
This is one of the last days on our second trip to Laramie. Greg and I have been conducting interviews non-stop, and we are exhausted.
We're to meet with Father Roger at 7:30 this morning. I was wishing we could skip it all together, but we have to follow through to the end. So here we go. 7:30 a.m. 2 queers and a Catholic priest.
Matthew Shepard served us well. You realize that? He served us well. And I did not mean to condemn Matthew to perfection, but I cannot mention anyone who has done more for this community than Matthew Shepard. Now, I'm not just going to sit here and say I was this bold guy, no fear. I was scared. I was very vocal in this community when it happened. And, you know, I thought we should call up the bishop and ask him permission to do the vigil. Then I thought, hell no, I'm not going to do that. His permission doesn't make it correct. And I'm not knocking bishops now, all right? But, you know, his permission doesn't make it correct. You guys are on the search tonight. I'll do this. I'll trust that if you do this play that you say it right, say it correct. I think you have a responsibility to do that. Don't make matters worse. You think violence is what they did to Matthew? They did do violence to Matthew, but, you know, every time that you call a fag, you know, or a les or whatever.
A dyke?
Dyke, yeah, dyke. Realize that this is violence. This is the seed of violence. And I would resent it immensely if you used anything I said to somehow cultivate that sort of violence. I would resent it immensely.
Thank you, Father, for saying that.
Just deal with what is true. You know it is true. You need to do your best to say what's correct.
Andrew Gomez. I was in there. I was in jail with Aaron back in December. I got thrown in over Christmas. Assault and battery, 2 counts. I don't want to talk about it, but we're sitting there eating our Christmas dinner. I'm trying to eat my stuffing, my bread, my motherfucking roll and whatnot. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, homie, tell me something, please. Okay, I'm trying to think how I worded this. I was like, why did you kill a faggot if you're destined to be a faggot later? Think about it. He's either gonna die or he's gonna get humped a lot. So why would you do that? Think about that. I don't understand that. And you know what he said to me? Honest to God, this is what he said. He goes, he tried to grab my dick. That's it, man. He's dumb, dog. He don't even act like it was nothing. And, now, I heard that when Aaron was going to prison, they were auctioning those boys off up in the Max ward, where the killers go. I heard that when they found out that Aaron was coming to prison, they were auctioning his ass off. I'll put aside 5, 6, 7 cartons of cigarettes. Auction his ass off. You know, I'd be scared to go to prison if I was those 2 boys.
Reverend,
Yes?
I believe your wife told you a bit about why I'm contacting you.
Yeah, she did, and, well, I don't know that I really want to talk to anyone about any of this. You see, I'm so involved, and I just don't think it's appropriate that there be...
I understand, and I'm not blaming you. I went to your service this past Sunday.
This Sunday?
Yes.
This past Sunday?
Yes, this past Sunday.
Did I meet you?
You welcomed me at the beginning, I believe.
I see. Well, I'm not afraid to be controversial or to speak my mind, and that is not necessarily the views of my congregation per se, but like I said, I'm somewhat involved, and one of the members of our congregation is a girlfriend of one of the accused, and one of the accused has visited, so... Now, let me tell you, we've been after these boys for 2 or 3 years, trying to get them to live right, to do right. Now both of them have forfeited their lives. In fact, one boy is on suicide watch, and I'm working with him, but until they put him in the chair and turn on the juice, I will work towards his salvation. I see, they both deserve the death penalty, but I'll just try to work with them.
Right, I understand.
Now, as for the victim, I understand that kind of lifestyle is legal, but I will tell you one thing. I hope that as Matthew Shepard, as he was tied to the fence, that he had a moment to reflect on a time when someone had spoken the word of the Lord to him, that before he slipped into a coma, he had a chance to reflect on that kind of lifestyle.
Thank you, Reverend. I appreciate your speaking with me.
Thank you.
It was 11:30 that night. I had just barely gone to bed when Margot, our chief operating officer, called and said his blood pressure started to drop. Well, let's wait and see. She called me about 10 after. He just died. So I quick got dressed and came in and went into the ICU where the family was. And Judy came up and put her arms around me. And I put my arms around her, and we just stood there, honestly, for about 10 minutes, just, because what else do you do? And then we had to sit down and talk about things that you just, Dennis, it's public knowledge now, and I'm going to go out there now and tell the whole world that this has happened. Because by this point, it was clear to us that it was the world. It was the whole world. And so Judy told me what she wanted me to say, and I went out at about 4:00 a.m.
Matthew Shepard medical update for 4:30 a.m. Monday, October 12th.
At 12 midnight, Monday, October 12th, Matthew Shepard's blood pressure began to drop. We immediately notified the family, who were already at the hospital. At 12:53 a.m., Matthew Shepard died. The family was at his bedside. The family did release the following statement. The family again asked me to express their sincerest gratitude to the entire world for the overwhelming response of their son. The family was grateful that they did not have to make a decision regarding whether or not to continue life support for their son. They said, like the good, caring son that he was, he was able to remove from them the guilt or stress of having to make that decision. He came into the world premature and left the world premature. Matthew's mother said, go home and give your kids a hug, and don't let a day go by without telling them that you love them. And I don't know how to let it happen, lost it on national television. But you know, we'd been up for like 72 hours straight, and gone home and gone to sleep for half an hour and had to get up and come back in. Maybe I was just way, I don't know, but in a moment of complete brain deadness, while I was out there reading that statement, I thought of my own 4 daughters and go home, hug your kids, and she just And there I am, and I'm thinking, this is so lame. And then we started to get people sending in emails and letters, and most of them were just generally very kind, but I did get this one. This guy wrote me and said, "Do you cry like a baby on national TV for all your patients or just the faggots?" And as I told you before, homosexuality is not a lifestyle with which I agree, but having been thrown into all this, I guess I didn't realize the magnitude with which some people hate. And you know, of all the letters we got, there were maybe 2 or 3 like that one. Most of them were just, "Thank you for your caring and compassion." And Matthew had caring and compassion since the moment he got here.
I spoke with the doc today and told me we'd soon be coming back for the upcoming trials of Russell Henderson and Aaron Mckinney. And this is what he had to say.
Tell you what, if they put those 2 boys to death, that would defeat everything Matt would be thinking about. Because Matt would not want those 2 to die. He'd want to leave them with hope. H-O-P-E. Just like the whole world hoped that Matt would survive. The whole thing, you see, the whole thing ropes around hope. H-O-P-E.
The day of the funeral, it was snowing so bad. Big, huge, wet snowflakes. And when I got there were hundreds of people in just black with umbrellas everywhere. And there were these 2 churches. One for the immediate family, the invited guests, people of that nature. And then the other church was for everyone else who wanted to be there. And then still, hundreds of people outside couldn't fit into either of these 2 churches. And there was this big park by the church, and that's where these people were. And this park was full.
The liturgy today is an Easter liturgy. It finds its meaning in the resurrection. The service invites your full participation. Let us pray.
And I guess it was like the worst storm they ever had. Like,
Let us
that
pray
anybody
to our
could
Lord
ever
Jesus
tell.
Christ, who
Like,
said,
trees fell down, the power went out for a couple of days because of it. And I
We
just
pray to
thought,
Lord.
it's
Hear us,
like
Lord.
the forces of the universe
Lord,
at work,
who
you know?
consoled Martha and
Like,
Mary,
whatever
Mary was
higher
thus
power
drawn near to
is
us,
that blows
who mourned for
storms
Matthew
was
and
blowing
cried
this
in tears
storm.
for those who
My most striking memory from the funeral
Carrie Drake of Casper Star Tribune.
is the Reverend Fred Phelps from Kansas.
You
I've
believe
seen
in the
all of
Bible?
part.
our sorrow.
Do you believe you're supposed to separate the person from the Bible? Don't believe in that part of the Bible.
6
Well, you
months later,
fit
Fred
over that
Phelps
ignorant old
and
fact.
Wyoming-
In the Bible, you have good talks about God's love, it talks about God's hate.
It was
I
being
would be here
attacked by her
today.
tribe.
This is just another one of
We
these
arrived at Yonah County.
the things that we
Fred Phelps was already there.
Came over.
But this is
So was Romaine
because of
Patterson.
facts are bringing us out here trying to turn Matthew Shepard into a poster boy for the gay lifestyle. You can answer it. It's just that
Finding out
simple.
he was coming to Laramie for the trial of Russell leading decided that someone needed to stand toe-to-toe with this guy and show the differences. And I think at times like this, when we're talking about hatred as much as our nation is right now, that someone needs to show that there's a better way of dealing with that kind of hatred. So, our idea is to dress up like angels. And so we have designed an angel for our
Standing here because Messy. His homosexuality is being a fag, okay? What do you mean it's not your place to judge? God creates fags, why does he send them hell? You see, the badness, the sterility of your silly arguments was set against some solid gospel truth.
And love and compassion.
Ben instead of just like your lifestyle.
Yeah,
Isaiah
21-year-old little lesbian.
Cry aloud, spare not. Lift thy voice up like a trumpet and show my people their transgression.
I knew that my angels were going to be taking the brunt of everything he had to yell and say. I mean, we were going to be completely blocking his view, and he was going to be like pissed off to all hell. So I went out and bought all my angels' earplugs.
The court is in session.
Romaine Patterson's sister, Trish Steger.
As soon as they started jury selection, everybody was coming into my shop with, I don't want to be on this trial, I hope they don't call me, or, oh my god, I've been called, how do I get off? Just wanting to get as far away from it as they possibly could. Very fearful that they'd have to be a part of this jury. And then I heard Henderson had to sit in the courtroom while they questioned prospective jurors, and one of the questions that they ask is, would you be willing to put this person to death? And I understand that a lot of the answers were, yes, I would.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
I would.
Definitely.
Yes, I
Can you imagine hearing that? Juror after juror after juror?
Mr. Henderson, you pled not guilty earlier, but I understand you wish to change your plea today. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You understand, Mr. Henderson, that the recommended sentence here is 2 life sentences.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that these sentences may run concurrently or they may run consecutively?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Henderson, I will now ask how you wish to plead, guilty or not guilty.
Guilty.
Before the court decides whether the sentences will be concurrent or consecutive, I understand that there are statements to be made by at least one individual.
An excerpt made to the court by Lucy Thompson.
As the grandmother and the person that raised Russell, along with my family, we have written the following statement. Our hearts ache for the pain and suffering the Shepards have went through. We have prayed for your family since the beginning. Many times throughout the day, I have thought about Matt, and you will continue to be in our thoughts and prayers as we know your pain will never go away. You have showed such mercy in allowing us to have this plea, and we are so grateful you have given us all the opportunity to live. Your Honor, as you sentence Russell, we as a family hope that you do so concurrently, 2 life sentences. For the Russell we know and love, Your Honor, we hope that you do not take him completely out of our lives forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Henderson, you have a constitutional right to make a statement if you would like to do so. Is there anything you would like to say?
Yes, I would, Your Honor. Mr. and Mrs. Shepard, there's not a moment that goes by that I don't see what happened that night. I know what I did was wrong, and I regret greatly what I did. You have my greatest sympathy for what happened. I hope that one day you'll find it in your hearts to forgive me. Your Honor, I know what I did was wrong, and I'm very sorry for what I did, and I'm ready to pay my debt for what happened.
Mr. Henderson, you drove the vehicle that took Matthew Shepard to his death. You tied him to a fence in order that he might be more savagely beaten and in order that he might not escape to tell his tale. You left him out there for 18 hours, knowing full well that he was there, perhaps having an opportunity to save his life, and you did nothing. Mr. Henderson, this court does not believe that you really feel any true remorse for your part in the matter. And I wonder whether you realize the gravity of what you've done. The court therefore finds it appropriate that sentence be as follows. As to count 3, that being felony murder with robbery, that you were to serve a period of imprisonment for the term of your natural life. On count 1, that being kidnapping, you were to serve a period of imprisonment for the term of your natural life. Sentencing for count 1 to run consecutive to sentencing for count 3.
After the hearing, we spoke with Russell Henderson's Mormon home teacher.
I've known Russell's family for 38 years. Russell's only 21, so I've known him his entire life. I actually ordained Russell a priest of the Mormon church. So when this happened, you can't imagine, disbelief. After the sentencing, the church held a disciplinary council, and the result of that was to excommunicate Russell from the church. And what this means is to have all your records removed from the church. So you just disappear. Russell's reaction to this was not positive. It hurt him, and it hurt him too, to realize how serious a transgression he had committed. But I will not desert Russell. It's a matter of me and my religion, and my relationship with his family.
Before we left Laramie, we met again with Rebecca Hilliker at the theater department. She's producing Angels in America this year at the university.
Well, I think that's the focus that the university has taken, is that we've got a lot of work to do, and as a university, it's our obligation to find ways of reaching our students. And the real question is, how do we move? How do we reach a state that has such deep-seated hostility towards gays? How? This is only the beginning, and guess who's auditioning for the lead?
My parents.
Jedediah Schultz.
My parents were like, so what plays are you doing this year? And I was like, Angels in America. And I told them this whole list of plays, and they're like, Angels in America? Is that scene that you did in high school? Is that play that you did in high school? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, huh, so are you going to audition for it? And I was like, yeah. And we got in this huge argument, and the best thing that I had on them was that it was just after a performance of Macbeth, and on stage, like, I murdered, like, these 2 little kids and Lady Macduff and these 2 other guys, and she kept going, well, you know, homosexuality is a sin. She kept saying that, and I go, Mom, you just saw me play a murderer tonight, and you didn't seem to have any problem with that. I tell you, I've never prepared so much for an audition in my life. Never, ever. Not even close.
Not having to deal that much with the gay society here in Laramie?
Detective Sergeant Rob Debris.
Well, once you start really working on the case and talking to people who are actually gay, understanding what their underlying fears are, then it really starts to hit home, you know? This is America. You don't have the right to feel that kind of fear. And of course, there are going to be people that stick with the old ideals. And hell, 14 months ago, I was probably one of them. But you know, I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to put up with it. If you don't like what I have to say, fine. You know, that door swings both ways. I've already lost some buddies over this, but I don't care. I feel more comfortable, and I can sleep at night.
Well, you're tested every 3 months.
Reggie Flutie.
And I was able to have the DNA work done. So they got me to Fort Collins, drew the blood there, flew to Michigan, did all the DNA work there, which was about a week later. I knew I was negative for good.
I'll tell you, we were all on our knees saying, Hail Mary.
We were just elated, you know, you think, thank God.
So what's the first thing she does?
I stuck my tongue right in my husband's mouth. You were just so happy, you know, and I think, yeah, I hope I did this service well. I hope I did it with some kind of integrity. And my daughters just bawled.
Oh, they were so happy.
And the force, we went out and got shit-faced. They all bought me drinks, too. It was great. We all laughed and cried. And I kissed everybody who walked through that door.
Reggie, they don't need to know
I didn't care if they were male or female. They each got a kiss on the lips.
Reggie, what did I just
say? Get over it, Mom.
Almost a year to the day that Matthew died, the trial for Aaron McKinney was set to begin.
Probably the question that most of you have on your mind is how the McKinney case will proceed.
Cal Rarucha, prosecuting attorney.
And it's the absolute decision of the county attorney that will definitely be a death penalty case.
Part of me wants Mckinney to get it, but I've been on and off and on. I can't say what I would do. I'm too personally involved.
Oh, I believe in the death penalty 100%, you know, because I want to make sure this guy's ass dies. This is the one time I truly believe with all my heart, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
I don't know about the death penalty, but I never want to see them ever walk out of Rollins Penitentiary. I'll pay my nickel or whatever, my little percentage of tax to make sure that his ass stays in there and never sees society again. And definitely never comes into my bar again.
I don't believe in the death penalty. It's too much for me. I don't believe that one person should be killed as redemption for killing another. But two wrongs don't make a right.
Well, how can I protest if the Shepards want McKinney dead? But on a personal level, I knew Aaron in grade school. We never called him Aaron. He was called AJ. And how can we put AJ McKinney? How can we put AJ McKinney to death?
I think right now our most important teachers must be Russell Henderson and Aaron McKinney. They have to be our teachers. How did you learn? What did we as a society do to teach you that? You see, I don't think many people would let them be their teachers right now, but I think it'd be wonderful if the judge said, along with your sentence, you must tell your story. You
All
must
right.
tell your story.
Docket number 6381. State of Wyoming versus the Honorable Barton R. Boyd presiding. The council is now in session.
During the trial of Aaron McKinney, the prosecution played the recording of his confession.
My name is Rob Dupree. I am a sergeant with the sheriff's office. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and may be used against you in a court of law.
The following is an excerpt of this confession.
So, you and Russ decided to go to the fireside. You're at the fireside by yourselves?
Yeah.
Where do you go after you leave the fireside?
Some kid wanted to ride home.
What's he look like?
Like a queer. Such a queer dude.
He looks like a queer.
Yeah. Like a faggot.
How'd you meet him?
Well, he wanted to ride home, and I just thought, oh, the dude's obviously drunk, let's just take him home.
When did you and Russ first talk about jacking him up?
We sort of talked about it at the bar.
What happened next?
Well, we went out past Walmart, and when we got there, he starts grabbing my leg and grabbing my genitals. I'm like, look, I'm not a fucking faggot. If you touch me again, you're gonna get it. I don't know what he was trying to do, but I beat him up pretty bad. I think I killed him.
What'd you hit him with?
Blacked out. My fist, pistol, butt of my gun. Was wondering what happened to me. Had a few beers, but I don't know. It was like I could see what was going on, but I don't know. It was like someone else was doing it.
What was the first thing that he said or did inside the truck that made you want to hit him?
He put his hand on my leg and slid his hand like he was grabbing my balls.
When that defense team argued that Mckinney did what he did because Matthew made a pass at him, I just wanted to vomit because that's like saying it's okay. It's like the Twinkie defense. When that guy killed Harvey Milk in Moscone, it's the same thing.
As much as a part of me didn't want them saying that it was a gay bashing or that it was gay panic, part of me was really grateful because I was scared that they'd start using robbery or make it about drugs. So when they said that the defense was about gay panic, well, I thought, this is good. If anything, the truth will be told. The truth is coming out.
Did he ever try to defend himself against you or hit back?
Yeah, he tried his little swings, but he wasn't very effective.
How many times did you hit inside the truck where you stopped where you left him?
Probably 2 or 3 times with my fist and another 6 with my pistol.
Did he ever ask you to stop?
Yeah, I was getting the shit kicked out of him.
What did he say?
After he asked me to stop, most all he was doing was screaming.
So Russ kind of tied him up and dragged him over the fence, I'm assuming?
Yeah, something like that. I just remember Russ was laughing at first, but then he got pretty scared.
Was Matthew conscious when Russ tied him up?
Yeah, and so I made him turn around, because, you know, I was afraid he would tell the police my license plate number. So I asked him to read it, and he read it, and that's why I hit him a few more times.
Just to be sure? So it's pretty obvious that you don't like gay people.
No, I don't.
Would you say you hate them?
I don't really hate them, but, like, when they start coming on to me and stuff like that, I get pretty aggravated.
Did he threaten you?
This gay dude?
Yeah.
Not really.
Can I ask you one more question? Why'd you take his shoes?
I don't know. Now I'm never going to see my son again.
Oh, I don't know. He'll probably go to court sometime today.
Today? So I'm going to, like, go in there today and be guilty or not
Oh,
guilty?
no, you'll just be arraigned today.
He is going to die for sure.
There is no doubt that Mr. Shepard is going to die.
So, like, what are they going to give me? Like, 25 to life or just the death penalty?
That's the judge's job. And the jury.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. We, the jury, impaneled and sworn to try the above entitled case after having well and truly tried the matter, unanimously find as follows. As to the charge of kidnapping, we find the defendant, Aaron James Mckinney, guilty. As to the charge of aggravated robbery, we find the defendant, Aaron James Mckinney, guilty. As to the charge of first-degree felony murder, kidnapping, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, guilty. As to the charge of first-degree felony murder robbery, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, guilty. As to the charge of first-degree premeditated murder, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, not guilty. As to the lesser charge of second-degree murder, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, guilty.
Pursue the death penalty. The next morning, Dennis Shepard made a statement to the court. Here is some of what he said.
My son Matthew did not look like a winner. He was rather uncoordinated and wore braces from the age of 13 until the day he died. However, in his all too brief life, he proved that he was a winner. On October 6, 1998, my son tried to show the world that he could win again. On October 12, 1998, my firstborn son and my hero lost. On October 12th, 1998, my firstborn son and my hero died 50 days before his 22nd birthday. I keep wondering the same thing I did when I first saw him in the hospital bed. What would he have become? How could he have changed his piece of the world to make it better? Matt officially died in a hospital in Fort Collins, Colorado. He actually died in the outskirts of Laramie tied to a fence. You, Mr. Mckinney, and your friend Mr. Henderson left him out there, but he wasn't alone. He had friends with him. There was his lifelong friends with him, friends he had grown up with. You're probably wondering who these friends were. First, he had the beautiful night sky and the same stars and moon we used to see through a telescope. Then he had the daylight and the sun to shine on him. And through it all, he was breathing the scent of the pine from the snowy range. He heard the wind, the ever-present Wyoming wind, for the last time. He had one more friend with him. He had God. And I feel better knowing that he wasn't alone. Matt's beating, hospitalization, and funeral focused worldwide attention on hate. Good is coming out of evil. People have said enough is enough, and I miss my son, but I am proud to say that he is my son. Now, Judy has been quoted as being against the death penalty. It has been stated that Matt is against the death penalty. Both these statements are wrong. Matt believed there were crimes and incidents that justified the death penalty. I, too, believe in the death penalty. I would like nothing better than to see you die, Mr. Mckinney. However, this is a time to begin the healing process. To show mercy to someone who refused to show any. Mr. Mckinney, I'm going to grant you life. As hard as it is for me to do so, because of Matthew. And every time you celebrate a birthday, a Christmas, a 4th of July, remember that Matt isn't. Every time you wake up in your cell, remember you had the opportunity and the ability to stop your actions that night. You robbed me of something very precious, and I will never forgive you. Mr. Mckinney, I grant you life in the memory of one who no longer lives. May you have long life, and may you thank Matthew every day for it.
Me and Debris hugged and cried. You know, everybody had tears in their eyes. We were just so thankful. And then Mr. Shepard was crying, and that got me bawling, and everybody's just...
This is all we've lived and breathed for a year, daily. This has been our case for a year, and now it's over.
Maybe now we can go and quit being stuck, you know?
It hit me the minute I got out of that courtroom. The reason that God wanted me to find him is for he didn't have to die out there alone. If I wouldn't have come along, they wouldn't have found him for a couple of weeks at least. So it makes me feel really good that he didn't have to die out there alone.
I'm just glad it's over. Really, I am. Testifying in that trial was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. And don't get me wrong, I love this stage. I really do, I love it. But it's hard because basically what you have is lawyers questioning you from this angle, and the answers need to be funneling over here to where the jury is. So you have to establish a funneling system. And that's hard for me, because I'm a natural conversationalist. So it's instinct for me that when someone asks you a question, you look at that person in the eye when you answer. And it's kind of tough, because you literally have to scoot over, change your position, in effect, funnel over to where the jury is. But I was able to do that several times over the course of my testimony. On our last trip, I had the good fortune of seeing Jedediah Schultz play the role of Pryor in Angels in America. After a performance, we spoke.
I didn't, for the longest time, let myself become personally involved in the Matthew Shepard case. It just didn't seem real. It just seemed way blown out of proportion. Matthew Shepard was just a name instead of an individual. I don't know. It's weird. It's so weird, man. I just feel bad for all that stuff that I told you, for the person that I used to be. That's why I want to hear those interviews from last year when I said all that stuff. I don't know. I just can't believe I ever said that stuff about homosexuals, you know? How did I ever let that stuff make me think you were different from me?
This is Romaine Patterson.
Well, a year ago I wanted to be a rock star, and now, obviously that's changed in the fact that throughout the last year, I've really realized my role in taking my part. So now, instead of going to school to do music, I'm going to go to school for communications and political sciences. Because I have a career in political activism. Actually, I just recently found out that I was going to be honored in Washington, D.C. from the Anti-Defamation League. Whenever I think of the Angels or any of the speaking I've done, Matthew gave me... Matthew's like this little guiding light with his path for me to walk down. It's just like, whenever we get to a door, he opens it. And he just says, okay, next step. And if I get to be a rock star on the side, okay.
This is Jonas Slonaker.
Change is not an easy thing, and I don't think people were up to it here. They got what they wanted. Those boys got what they deserved, and we look good now. Justice has been served. The OK crowd. We shot the villains. We sent the prostitutes on the train. The town's cleaned up, and we don't need to talk about it anymore. You know, it's been a year since Matthew Shepard died, and they haven't passed shit in Wyoming. At the state level, any town, nobody anywhere has passed any kind of laws. Anti-discrimination laws, hate crime legislation, nobody's passed anything anywhere. What's come out of it? What's come out of this that is concrete or lasting?
We all said that we would meet again, one last time at the fence.
Been up to that side of Mount Limousine, okay? And I remembered that stuff. The night he and I drove around together. Said to me, Laramie sparkles, doesn't it? And where he was, up there, She'd sit exactly where he was up there. Laramie sparkles from there. With a low-lying cloud, it's the blue lights that's bouncing off the clouds from the airport, and it goes tss, 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 right over the whole city. I mean, it blows you away. Matt was right there, in that spot, and I can picture in his eyes. I can just picture what he was seeing. The last thing he saw on this earth was the sparkling lights.